What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today we are reacting to Cypher PK. Fortnite isn't the same. He just uploaded this, I think, yesterday or today. I'm not fully sure, but yeah, I just saw the other video about him talking about shutting down and Fortnite and 1,000 people fired. So Fortnite's crazy. So I want to see his video because maybe he gives more information. So let's check it out.
How fun is Fortnite, actually? Well, if you ask the players, some might say it depends on what mobility is currently in the game. One singular item could be the difference between a boring or fun season. In the very beginning, we had nothing. It was just you and your character slowly walking around the map. But over 8 years and 38 seasons later, the meta has shifted constantly. So today I'm breaking down the full evolution of mobility in Fortnite. And to do so, we have to
that editing's hurting my head, yo. Chill.
All the way back in Season 0. When Fortnite first released, your character had 3 movement options: walking, sprinting, crouching. A lot of
the OG movement, y'all. Who was scared to play solos back in the day? Who was scared, bro? I was scared to play solos. I used to camp in the bush. I was a bush camper, bro. Before all the metas, all that shit, bro, I was scared out of my mind, for real.
People may have forgotten, but in the beginning, keyboard and mouse players had to constantly hold down Shift plus W in order.
But I was a controller player back then, but I remember that because there was no sprint by default.
To sprint. And sprinting by default didn't get added until Season 5.
Yeah, 38 seasons is crazy though. Like, for real, like I can't believe we've come so far in the game. There's people predicting the helicopter, people predicting freaking puppy playtime and all that shit, bro. Like, that's crazy.
This left some PC players at a huge disadvantage. You could always tell when someone was brand new because this was the reason they would do the noob walk, constantly walking around instead of sprinting.
Yep. The noob walk, I remember that. If you did the noob walk, people would laugh at you because you look like you suck at the game.
Later in the season, they added the jump pad.
I remember when that was out and then they vaulted it. I think it was the next season, bro. They had it for like a little bit and then it came back doubled the size.
Directional and up. You place them on a quarter of one of your floors and they provided a small boost to your player. They weren't super useful, but it was something until they got removed in Season 2. Then in Season 1, they added the pump feature. You might be wondering, aren't we talking about mobility?
Yeah. Felt like the first Halo for you? Yeah. But I remember the pumpkin launcher. I also remember the snowball grenade launcher. Bro, that was tough, bro. I remember watching Ninja highlights, Ninja clips. If y'all remember Fortnite Funny, bro, that was the best. That was when Myth was a tower camper, and he was just like camp a tower the entire time, and Ninja would make fun of him. That's when Dakotas was the sniper guy, and CDN the Third was playing this game. Now he's an Arc Raiders guy. Shout out to CDN the Third. He was one of the funniest Fortnite players back in the day, Fortnite streamers. Yeah, shout out, bro.
Well, we are, because some
those weapons were broken.
A new secret mechanic, the rocket.
The rocket riding. Yo, that was fun too. I remember when it was friendly fire, bro. Friendly fire was annoying because some teammates were just toxic. But the only clip that reminds me of friendly fire is when Ninja accidentally killed his duo when he queued into duos, and he killed his teammate, and he said, "I search freaking duos."
Originally, this was an unintended.
And Mr. Grims, yo, that dude was also a goated streamer on Fortnite back in the day, and then he quit out of nowhere. He just disappeared, bro.
But instead of fixing it, Epic thought it was great and decided to leave it in the game. And then later this season, to expand on the idea of traps, Epic added a stronger mobility item, the Launchpad. It launches you up in the air, and then you're able to redeploy your glider. And players often would build up a few...
Not gonna lie, talking about gliders, I hate that they switch how the glider look in like chapter 2, because the glider look in the beginning was way better than the glider look in chapter 2. Like, why did they switch it?
ramps. That way they can get even higher and get
Even though I used the umbrella, but we're not gonna talk about that.
more mobility out of their launch pad. This became a staple for Chapter 1 and has been consistently a part of the game ever since. And then in Season 2, we got one new mobility item, the Impulse Grenade. It would push...
Who else was watching those videos with Ninja and Dr. Lupo trolling each other with the impulse grenades, y'all? Those were funny.
Players away who were in proximity when it detonated, and you would take fall damage with the impulse grenade. You could carry up to 8 of them, and Epic had no idea this would be used as a meme to troll your teammates. And then in Season 3, Epic added the guided missile launcher. This allowed for better rocket riding than the original RPG. Because
Low-key, that shit was slow though, not gonna lie. That was really slow.
rocket ride players, and better yet, you could rocket ride yourself. You had even more control of the missiles while you were in the air, and some players even comboed multiple rockets to travel the width of the entire map, which is just extremely impressive. But then everything changed in Season 4 because we had an influx
Who remember that intro, that trailer? Fortnite funny.
of new mobility in Fortnite. Like the first ever vehicle, the shopping cart. It's very slow in comparison to the vehicles.
Yeah, I remember the
Using
shopping
this
cart.
was the best way to go downhill in Fortnite. It was faster than default running, and there was a secret combo where if you used a minigun in the back of the shopping cart, you would go
I did not know about that. What the hell?
extremely fast. This season also introduced hop rocks, which spawn at the new POIs like Dusty Divot and Risky Reels, and they granted low gravity and fall damage immunity for 30 seconds. These were great for taking height quickly via ramp rushing. We also got the jetpack, one of the first items with a durability mechanic. The Thanos glove was also added this season, and everyone
very
wanted
good
to become
times.
Thanos because of how powerful he was. But he
Bro,
also had some
bro, I never did Thanos, bro. I wish I was Thanos one time. I never got to be Thanos. I'm very upset about that.
insane mobility because you could launch yourself up in the air and pick a spot to land at. Thanos also had way faster movement than the average player. We also got a new trap with the bouncers. These were great for medium distance movement and also granted you fall damage immunity. They were useful for small rotations, and players would usually build up.
Prime Tfue, y'all. That was one of the biggest people I used to watch back in the day, was Tfue. Tfue was like, bro, if I played keyboard and mouse back in the day, bro, and I have the skill I have now, I would probably play like Tfue.
A few ramps and then place a wall with a bouncer on it to go even further. But then some players combined the bouncer with a launch pad to create the super launch pads. Players built a specific contraption to combine the effect of a bouncer and a launch pad at the same time. This allowed them to launch much
never did
further
that.
up in the air by using the low gravity effect of the bouncer. And it doesn't stop there because in Season 5 we got another batch of mobility injected into Fortnite.
Yo, who know about Season 5, y'all? Season 5 was so good, y'all. Season 5, like, that's nostalgia, bro.
With the rifts. They started appearing in predetermined locations around the map, mainly near Paradise Palms and Viking Village. It immediately teleports players up to the height limit and allowing them to pull their glider as well. Similar to a launch pad, but way better for rotating. We also got a better vehicle with the ATK. This is the new fastest vehicle in the game. It completely outperformed the shopping carts and even had a drift boost, a bouncy rooftop, but it was a little bit glitchy when it first came out. Epic took it a step further with the Rift to Go, a Rift that you could actually add to your loadout, bringing it with you and using it anywhere on the map when you needed it. It was great for team rotations. There was also a great trick where you could do a fake Rift, canceling it at the last second to make it seem like you rifted away, only to surprise your opponents. And some players figured out if you time it right, you could
Rift to go. Alright, see you later, see you later. But what I was gonna say, what was I gonna say? Freak. I was gonna say that Rift to goes were probably one of the first like things you can escape a fight from. I mean, you could use like the impulse grenade, but nah, couldn't.
Actually use the Rift to go and pick up an item on the ground before you get teleported up in the air. We also got the introduction of shockwaves.
Like I just said, shockwaves. Shockwaves, probably one of still the best mobilities to use. Escaping and just using it.
Improved impulse nades. The difference was they launched you much further, allowing you to also break through builds and structures while gaining fall damage immunity and low gravity. It became a staple of Fortnite and has been in the game in every single chapter besides chapter 6. We also got a mobility map change with Loot Lake when Kevin the Cube melted inside. The bouncy effect at Loot Lake made it much faster to go across the lake instead of the slow walk that you would do when it was just water. And last but not least, Epic also added the grappler. Originally, it had...
Yeah, I remember when the grappler got leaked, bro. It had like 15, and it had like a limitless range, bro. I'm telling you, bro.
15 uses and has also become a staple of Fortnite mobility, especially in Reload. In Season 6, Epic started experimenting with the different kinds of mobility the game had to offer, like the floating island. The Loot Lake house was floating in the air and traveled all around the map. It served as a permanent glider redeploy, allowing you to go up in the sky and float away from it. They also added a new trap, the Chiller, which gave you icy feet and let you slide downhill at a fast rate, although this trap was rarely used well.
I hated the Chiller, bro, because like it would last for so long and it would get you killed.
Epic also added shadow stones, which were found in corrupted areas, which would turn you into a ghost and let you move faster, jump higher, and take no fall damage. You couldn't shoot while under this effect, but it gave you a special ability where you could phase through walls. You could also combine the shadow stones while walking into a launcher to send yourself flying. And then if you spammed the jump button as you were landing, you could keep the momentum for insane rotations. Epic added an even better mobility vehicle, the Quad Crasher. It was the first vehicle that could break builds, and it had a boost system. Players like Tfue figured out how to use it to stay in the air infinitely and fly across the entire map whenever they wanted to. However, during this season, Epic removed a very popular mobility mechanic called bunny hopping. Like I said earlier, if you spam jump right as you were about to hit the ground from a glider deploy or anything that gave you momentum, you could keep that momentum and jump further and further on each jump. This required precise timing and wasn't very accessible for new or casual players, so Epic eventually removed the entire mechanic. In Season 7, Epic continued the trend of mobility changes on the map with the addition of zip lines. They were located in predetermined...
Yo, zip lines would get me killed back in the day, yo. Because it didn't have that freaking immunity thing, so if you jumped off, you're low-key screwed. Literally.
Areas on the map, and they were insanely buggy at launch. Most players avoided them because there was a high chance you were going to fall to your death while using them.
Yep,
Planes
exactly.
also got added at fixed spawn points around the map, and you could fly anywhere with these things. Some players even flew them near max height until the final zone to boost their placements in
Mongrel.
tournaments. And originally, they had unlimited fuel, so if you weren't getting shot out of the sky, you could fly forever. Epic also added the Chiller Grenade, which gave you the same effect as a Chiller Trap. It could be thrown and did a splash effect on all players, giving them icy feet. They also added a fan favorite vehicle, the Drift Board. It was a hoverboard that you could jump on and continue using your weapons and builds even while riding it.
Season 7 was also when Creative came out, so everybody was on that, boy. I remember playing against everybody on that, because everybody like, yo, let's 1v1, let's 1v1, because you had infinity ammo, you could pick any gun you want, there was no, like, finding a gun. Yo, that shit was goated, bro. Playground was good, but this was good.
This vehicle was perfect for landing trick shots. Next up, we have Season 8. Epic added pirate cannons on the map.
Yeah, I remember watching clips of people using that and then flying across the map and they would die in tournaments.
To launch you really far distances wherever you were aiming. However, they were a little bit buggy and sometimes launched players in random directions.
Yep.
There was also some lava that got added, and if you jumped on the lava, you would gain some insane movement momentum. However, every time you landed in the lava, you would take 1 HP per hit. The volcano on the map also had a permanent glider redeploy. And speaking of glider redeploy, there was also geysers all around the map, occasionally activating.
Yeah, at one point in the game, I think it was season 6, they just gave you redeploy if you fell, so there was like no fall damage really. So if you were knocking people down the building, they could just go off. Unless you had good aim and you can laser them off, then you were fine. But that's what would happen back in season 6.
Players high into the sky and allowing for a glider redeploy, similar to launch pads. And then Epic was really experimenting with new vehicles because they ended up adding the ballers this season, giving you
ballers were low-key really good back in the day when there was tournaments and when it first came out. Because when it first came out, everybody was using it in tournaments and just staying in them because it would take a really long time to kill them off, or like everybody would grip onto your building and just hit it and knock you off and kill you.
160-degree protection while you're inside, and you could move around like crazy with these things. Some players discovered a strategy where you could speed up your momentum by spamming grapplers from side to side. Epic also added the Peppers consumables. These were found in the desert biome, giving you 5 health per pepper and a speed boost for 1 minute. We also got the addition of the Flint Knock pistol, which would give you a small knockback.
Yo, when the Flint Knock first came out, bro, that was goated. Because the reload was fast, and plus it took a lot more damage.
This effect by carrying multiple Flint Knocks in your inventory. And last but not least, we got the Shadow Bomb, which works
I hated those
Shadow Stones, except you can actually carry them with you. And as long as you never touch the ground and
I was about to say Mr. Savage,
keep the shadow effect on you indefinitely. Things slowed down in Season 9 because we only got 2 new mobility changes to the game. The slipstreams that were around the new POIs like Neo Tilted and Mega Mall, and the sky platforms which were all over the place at 7 locations.
Everybody said it. I said it too. They copied Apex Legends. But look what game is still popping off. I mean, Apex Legends, I know people that still play it, but still. What's more popular?
And they were basically a simple slipstream that would allow you to go vertically up in the air and then redeploy, which were very ideal for rotating. And we finished off chapter 1 with Season X when Epic added the mechs, which were also great for rotating.
I hated that, bro. That shit, that's automatic beef, bro. If you said, oh, I used to use mech, nah, get out. You just use the mech. But if you can't beat them, you gotta join them. People would say, I'll be like, alright, I understand. But still, come on, baby dick. You really gotta use that?
Protected on your rotations. Then when Gotham City dropped, they added the Batman
I remember that
grapple gun, which had 15 uses and would automatically redeploy after you've grappled. And last but not least, players discovered a very interesting strategy called the EJ Dash, a movement tech where you would look down and place a stair at the right moment while jumping, and the stair would push you forward.
I never knew about this.
Momentum. This was much faster than regularly sprinting around the game. However, later on, Epic does eventually remove the EJ Dash, and it does change Fortnite completely. Fortnite did not slow down with mobility going into chapter 2 because they gave us a brand new way to move around the map: swimming. If you never played back in chapter 1, you could not swim on the map. You would just walk slowly in the water, but now you can actually swim and move much faster. On top of that, they also added boats, the first mobility vehicle for water. Movement was very limited in Season 1, so eventually players found out it was faster to drive the boats on land. By looking down and perfectly timing a missile with a boost, it was the fastest movement strategy of that season. They also added hideouts, haystacks, dumpsters, and porta potties were added as
low-key, chapter 2 is what changed it all, literally. But that black screen of death that they trolled us with, oh, I'm still mad about that to this day,
areas. Some porta potties had fixed teleportation points that let you go from point A to point B after a quick animation. In the second season of chapter 2, we got the Skies Mythic.
Chapter 2, season 2 is one of the best. All it reminds me is Roxanne, Quarantine, and Travis Scott came out, bro. Like, that was such, like, one of the best, like, seasons ever, compared to the old ones. That was probably the best.
Grappler, which was found at the Shark POI, and you could get it by defeating.
But low key, I didn't do my schoolwork, and the teacher would call my parents. So like low key, I would get my PlayStation taken away like during midst of the season. So I could have grinded for way more skins, way all gold, like PLE, all gold stuff. But I would get myself taken away because I wasn't doing my work during quarantine. But everybody wasn't doing their work, and I was getting in trouble because the teachers want to call my parents.
NPC. It was the first grappler with infinite uses. They also added the iconic Choppa, the main mobility of the season, similar to planes, but it didn't include an offensive weapon. And you had no fall damage immunity. And we also got the addition of the crash pad, which saved you
the first time the crash pads came out, bro, that was meta, especially in tournaments or arena. I miss arena. They said it's coming back, but it's not gonna be the same because it's box fight arena. It's not just regular arena.
Fall damage if thrown below you and granted fall damage immunity. It was the perfect counter if your Choppa was shot out. Chapter 2, Season 3 gave us Kit's Shockwave Launcher, which was found at Caddy Corner after defeating the Kit NPC. It worked like a shockwave grenade, and since it used rocket ammo, you could carry more than a traditional shockwave, but it did have to be reloaded. Loot sharks were also added. These were the first animal NPCs added to the game. They allowed you to attach a fishing rod to them and control.
Yeah, I hated them sharks. I would get attacked by sharks like Loki all the time.
Them like a vehicle. It was very underutilized, but it was kind of useful, especially when the map was fully flooded. Whirlpools were also in the water, boosting players up in the air, allowing them to redeploy similar to geysers back in Season 8. And last but not least, we got the addition of cars in Fortnite.
Yo, I remember when cars came out, bro. That was like a really good time because, like, I remember it was like a random update, and then I don't know, it did not come out in Battle Royale or anything first. It came out in creative, and you had to go in a certain mode to drive it, and then eventually they added it to the game, and then you actually had to get gas. Low key was like a main thing. Like, you would run out of gas really quick, so you would have to get gas like all the time.
Long awaited moment. Ever since Chapter 1, people have been asking for cars. Now, when they first came out, not all the cars were drivable. Some had yellow boots on the tires, but of course now that's not a thing. In Chapter 2, Season 4, we got a bunch
only
of
with the reboot vans that are drivable
items for the Marvel season, including Groot's Bramble Shield.
This was another good season. This is prime Mongrel season. If you guys want to watch it, Mongrel was really good during the season. When he won FNCS, I think, or it was the season before that, he won FNCS, and he hit his world record 39 kills in a solo trio arena. If you had never watched that, watch it. This is like peak Mongrel right here.
All that increased movement speed and protected you while healing. There was only one on the map, and there was a crazy glitch with it, so for
I never used that.
This thing wasn't even in the game. We also got the Wolverine Mythic Claws, which had a dodge effect and a dash that could be used mid-air to move around. We also got Silver Surfer's Board, which allowed you to jump into the air and act like a glider redeploy. You could dismount at any time without taking any fall damage. Later that season, we got Witch's Broom during the Halloween event, which worked identically to the Silver Surfer board.
Those were good.
The Venom's Smash and Grab. You could pull players towards you and
that was
pull
annoying.
Enemies out of their box, destroying any builds in its path. Chapter 2, Season 5 gave us 3 new ways to move in Fortnite. First was sand tunneling. After sitting in the sand bottom, you'd fall into the ground, and you could rotate at faster speeds while remaining mostly hidden. This feature, unfortunately, was broken for most of the season. It was very buggy, and there was some invincibility bugs where you could glitch under the map permanently. Epic disabled it and re-enabled it repeatedly, and then removed it at the end of Season 5. We also got the 0-point crystal shards. They were scattered throughout the sand biome, and it could be consumed for the ability to dash. Epic also added the exotic Hop Rock Dualies, one of the first exotic weapons in Fortnite. It granted the Hop Rock effect when you fired them and negated fall damage. In Chapter 2, Season 6, we got the addition of Wildlife. They added 4 animals that could be used for mobility.
I remember this season.
Could be held for a low gravity effect while jumping, and you could combo
the chickens,
this with shockwaves and other items. Boars could be tamed and then ridden, and you could sprint faster than the normal player's speed. The same thing could be done with wolves, who sprinted faster than the players and boars.
At one point, I'm not going to know any of this stuff because low-key, I think I was playing 2K, NBA 2K, uh 22 at the time. So yeah, that could be the reason why I didn't play these seasons.
And finally, the Raptors could be tamed and ridden, the fastest of all of the animals. Epic gave us off-road tires so that we can customize the cars, allowing them to go up mountains and maintain their speed off-road. The grappler bow was also added and it had a similar effect to the Batman's grapple gun,
crazy though,
you and allowing you to redeploy wherever you shot it. And the map offered mobility through the Guardian Towers. There were 6 of them across the map, and at the top there was a booster that would thrust you towards the center of the map. The chest spawns at the top of these towers made them a very contested spot to land at. And finally, we have the Spire Jump Boots. If you jumped while hitting the ground 3 times in a row, you would progressively jump higher and higher, eventually receiving a glider redeploy on the 3rd jump. Overall, this item was too difficult to obtain and overall very useless. Chapter 2 Season 7 gave us a ton of new mobility. UFOs were added on the map.
See, I didn't play during this time, but I remember I think Rick came out during this season. I played like in the beginning, and then low-key I just stopped playing it because of the way the game was made, and yeah, we're playing other games.
5 players and had 3 lives. You could even use the UFO to pick up other players and objects and shoot an energy ball that would do 30 damage. We also got alien parasites, which could attach to players' heads and give them a speed buff at the expense of 30 health. Another interesting fact was that wearing a parasite would actually change the sound of your in-game voice. Alien nanites were also added, which formed a zero gravity box in which you could double jump to dash in the direction you were walking. And one of the most interesting items in all of Fortnite was the inflatable added this season. This would turn you into an inflatable cow and give you the physics of a bouncy ball.
Wow.
Players figured out you could also combine it with a launch pad, but this trick wasn't that useful. During this season, for a short period of time, a handful of holograms appeared on the island. Players could enter them and transform into a pink ball. They worked very similar to the inflatable, but sometimes they would bug out and allow players to fly around the map at insane speeds. PC players couldn't see the bubble pads for the first 3 days, and if they walked into it unknowingly, their game would crash. We also got a car collaboration this season with the Ferrari 296 GTB, the first branded car in Fortnite, and unlike the others, it had a boost. There was also a bug with this that lets you boost to fly infinitely. Chapter 2 Season 8 gave us the Venom and Carnage symbiote. You could grab enemies like Venom Smash and Grab, but it also had a redeploy. Chili Chug Splashes were added, giving players the splash effect, but also the chili speed running.
Yeah, I actually used to watch Allier back in the chapter 1 when I don't know if his clips were fake or if he was just actually was like low-key getting lucky with his games, but I don't know. Could never tell.
Effect that you got from eating a pepper. The sideways scythe was an interesting weapon and it gave you a speed buff while equipped, and you could also jump higher and further. And Epic tried their hands on a new grappler with the Icy Grappler. It worked.
Yo, I used to watch those twins. Yo, they were actually really good. They were the ones that did the 360, the fast 360 to spin and shoot somebody with the pump and do a 1 pump.
Grappler, but gave you icy feet when you used it, allowing you to move faster, especially downhill. And with Chapter 3, of course, we had to add some more new movement mechanics. The first main one being sliding.
I low-key barely played Chapter 3.
And as a result, a new meta was formed where players would flip their ramp backwards and slide down for quicker rotations. But we can't talk about Chapter 3 Season 1 without one of the most impressive mobility items Fortnite has ever added. The Spider-Man web shooters.
Those are nostalgic too.
Love mobility items.
I want her and go little rock star. That's all I heard from TikTok when people just shoot the webs everywhere in Spider-Man.
In Fortnite history, allowing you to swing around like Spider-Man. It had incredible physics, was satisfying, and had 80 total uses.
Wow.
Combo was also a beloved part of this season, and he actually had a blowhole on his back that would launch players into the air and allowing them to redeploy similar to a launch pad. And while he was iconic, he hasn't returned to the game ever since this season. And later in the season, Fortnite experimented by adding tornadoes. These would move around the map, collecting debris and vehicles. Players who injured would get lifted up in the air and have the opportunity to glide or redeploy. But Chapter 3 Season 2 is when movement in Fortnite completely transformed. Epic added mantling and sprinting, and this had astronomical effects. It was an even faster way to move around the map on foot, but you couldn't shoot or build while sprinting. Sliding became even more powerful because you could sprint, then slide to regain the ability to build and shoot.
That's how meta is today, yo.
The ledge of any building or cliff. This was necessary for the addition of Zero Build, but it had a lot of bugs that would occasionally launch players.
This is like around the time Zero Build probably first came out. That's probably why. This is probably when I came back to the game, because everybody, like my dad, his friend would want to play, and I'm like, yo, all right, I'll play. And then everybody was low-key trash, dirt. Carried them all the time. So yeah, Zero Build.
Across the map or up into the sky. We also got the addition of tanks and the armored battle bus this season, two very powerful vehicles. The tank had 2,000 health and players were heavily protected, and these vehicles had turrets and launchers.
I don't remember that.
IO cars were also added, and these were slightly better than normal vehicles because they were noticeably faster. Chapter 3 Season 3 only gave us 2 new mobility items. The Grapple Glove, which is similar to the Spider-Man web shooters but a little bit weaker, and the Nimbus Cloud, which is a reskin of the Silver Surfer board from the Marvel season. Chapter 3 Season 4 added one more layer to movement by adding slide kicking. If you slid into other players, you would now knock them back. Competitive players would use this to break walls that were low HP and phase through the players' boxes. It was also used in situations where you could slide kick people off of high places and have them fall to their death. The Octane vehicle was also added as a part of a Rocket League collaboration.
Yeah, because Rocket League became an Epic Games game, and then one thing led to another. They're in Fortnite.
Same physics and movement as Rocket League, which was kind of scary. Hot air balloons were also in the game, and they spawned at fixed locations around the map. And
hot air balloons are in the game still, by the way.
Players could take them to ascend up and glide through the air, similar to a launch pad. D-launchers were also added, similar to the Guardian Towers. These launchers would send you flying in a predetermined direction, and they could not be destroyed or built over. We also got the addition of Chrome and the Chrome Splash this season. By throwing this down at your feet, your character would be covered in chrome. Then you could transform into a blob and rotate at a faster speed. The blob transformation also had the option to dash, and you could phase through walls. This was very underutilized. Next up, we have Chapter 4 Season 1. Epic
I played this season.
Now, this was an uncancelable animation where you couldn't build or shoot and would sometimes get you killed, and it was a little bit buggy at the time, so Epic actually removed it. We also got the Dirt Bike, a vehicle intended for off-roading, and you could pull off wheelies for some extra speed. The Shockwave Kinetic Hammer was also added, a very unique mobility item, which had 4 or 5 charges depending on its rarity. You could use it to rotate or use the smash to deal damage to players and knock them away. There was kinetic ore around the map, these blue slabs filled with energy, and when you pickaxe them, they would show which direction they were going to go flying. You could then hop on top of these rocks to get launched across the map with them. Most of them were found at the Shattered Slabs POI. We also got the addition of Slap Juice, a new healing item that gave you 15 shield or health and gave you infinite stamina for 50 seconds. This chapter also added augments, and one of them was very interesting for mobility: soaring sprints. An augment that gave
I remember those. I used to abuse those. Sometimes I'd be confused because sometimes they didn't work.
Low gravity every time you sprint jumped. You could combine this with the exotic double barrel shotgun to fly in the air infinitely, as long as you had shotgun ammo to spare. And in the second season of Chapter 4, we got ODM gear, another insane collaboration movement.
Guess who got Aaron Yeager, y'all? I got Aaron Yeager.
Items similar to the Spider-Man web shooters, but were very unique. Fortnite also added grind rails, railings that you could sprint on at Mega City. They followed a set path, and jumping off of them made you immune to fall damage. The Kinetic Blade was the successor to the Kinetic Hammer and one of the most loved mobility items ever. There were katanas with 2 to 4 charges depending on the rarity, and each charge would let you dash in the air and prevent you from taking fall damage. In Chapter 4 Season 3, Epic experimented by adding mud to the game. Sliding in muddy parts of the jungle biome gave you a speed boost and a mud effect. Originally, there was an exploit with this where you could cancel slide over and over and move much faster than intended. Vines were also in the jungle POI that worked similar to the grind rails, and there were bouncy slurp shrooms. These were spread out all through the jungle POI, and there were different types. The yellow ones launched you the highest, and the blue ones granted 15 HP. Competitive players developed a custom parkour course that allowed them to stay alive in the storm, and eventually this led to Epic adding storm sickness. And in the final season, Chapter 4, Season 4, we got one new mobility item, the rocket ramp.
Ooh, I remember that. It was good in the beginning, and then they nerfed it, and they got really slow.
2 inventory slots and let you fly through the air once every 25 seconds. You could also deal damage to players by landing on them with the rocket ramp. And in Chapter 5, Epic did one of the most controversial movement changes ever. The entire movement animation in Fortnite was changed permanently. On top of that, the standard running speed was 10% slower and crouching was 20% slower. Strafing became awkward and initial player reception was extremely poor.
Yep.
The new movement was
I was complaining about that a lot.
As sluggish, and Epic reverted the speed changes after a few days but kept the new animations. To this day, people still complain about this. The train was also added on the map, a train that moved on a fixed...
This was another good season, was Chapter 5 Season 1, because that's when all the good all different game modes came out, and the weekend was in the item shop for like I don't know how long. I mean, the season before this was also good because that's when they brought back OG Fortnite, and everybody was on that. I hit Unreal, my brother hit Unreal, my cousin hit Unreal. Yeah, we were just straight up grinding the game, and then this season came out. We did the same thing, hit Unreal, and we were just... It was just really fun. The guns were good. Everybody was playing. Fortnite was at its all-time high.
Path throughout the game and occasionally made stops at stations. We also got the grapple blade, similar to the grappler.
The grapple blade. I missed the grapple blade.
Wall climbing was also added because walls now had ledges attached to them, so you could scale up the side of buildings infinitely. We also got the Flowberry Fizz healing item, which a lot of players loved, giving players low gravity.
They still have that.
As well as 5 shield per second. And a very important movement change they made for Chapter 5 was giving players the ability to heal while moving. Before, moving would cancel your medkit or big pop, but now you could pop things like bandages, medkits, and even chug jugs while moving around the map. And in Chapter 5 Season 2, we got the Wings of Icarus, the first flying mobility item, which let you soar in the sky like a bird. We also got the Underworld Dash. The Underworld biome had a green water that if you stepped into would give you 3 dashes just by touching it. You could hold on to those dashes and make aggressive plays with them, but each time you dash, you would consume one of the skulls. Airbending was also added as a part of the Avatar collaboration, allowing players to traverse the map while inside an air wheel. And while earthbending wasn't meant for mobility, you could actually use earthbending to rocket ride your teammates by having them jump underneath the rock before you throw it. However, this was less consistent and not as practical as rocket riding. Chapter 5 Season 3 gave us the Nitro.
This season was weird as shit, bro.
Similar to the kinetic blade and had an additional uppercut attack. We also got Nitro Hoops, where cars and players could enter these rings to gain a significant speed boost. The Nitro Splash, which gave you the ability to crash into walls, instantly breaking them and also having increased speed. And we can't forget the Ride the Lightning mythic item, a collab item with Metallica, which allowed you to shoot up in the air in an unpredictable jagged pattern. Enemies and teammates could use the same lightning path as you, making it very hard to keep them off of you. Chapter 5 Season 4 gave us the War Machine's Hover Jets, a form of a jetpack that had a trick where players could spam the boost and slide to travel way faster than intended. We also got Iron Man's Flight Kit. Similar to the Wings of Icarus, this item lets you fly in the air with insane precision. And finally, the Chainsaw, a melee weapon that had a secondary rotation feature. Players could ride on top of the chainsaw to traverse faster. And in Chapter 2 Remix, we got the unintended Snoop Dogg car launch. This was a bug that let players super jump while in the lowriders by binding their jump button to a scroll wheel. But after Remix, we got Chapter 6, which gave us 4 new movement features.
I played this too.
Wall kick, wall scramble, ledge jump, and roll landing. We also got the Void Oni Mask, a very unique fan favorite item where you throw a teleporter.
This was the season where I played a lot of Ballistic.
across the map, and you would activate it again to spawn where you threw it. It worked kind of like an ender pearl from Minecraft. Air sprites were also all around the map and spawned
I remember
near
those
shrines. You could carry them in your inventory, and each one had up to 3 uses. It would give you an effect similar to a launch pad. Chapter 6 Season 2 gave us the Kneecapper, a unique melee item that could be charged up to send your teammates or enemies flying, and you would have a speed boost while equipping it. We also got the Gold Splash, similar to the Chug Splash, but granted a speed buff. The Rocket Drill was also added, which had similar movement tech to the Rocket Ram, but allowed for more control. We also got the exotic Lawless Shockwave Rocket Launcher, an RPG that shockwave players on impact, and this one was kind of crazy and could be very useful for rotations and found in the black markets. We also got the exotic Lawless Rift Launcher, which gave you the same effect as a Rift to go, but you could shoot it down anywhere and it recharged every 22 seconds infinitely. Chapter 6 Galactic Battle gave us the Imperial
I remember this.
Fighter and the
like every first season of a chapter, I've played it. And then usually I would give up after the second chapter. No, the second season if it wasn't good.
Additional air vehicles, which were very powerful. But during this season, Epic removed wall kicks and roll landing. Chapter 6 Season 3 gave us the Kill Switch Revolvers, the first ever slow motion item in Fortnite. This item allowed you to dodge the side and ADS in the air. They also added a grind rail launcher at the Supernova POI, which would launch you all the way to the next POI at Brutal Boxcars. Mistform was also added, allowing you to turn your character into an invincible flock of ravens for 4 seconds. During this state, you couldn't be damaged and you could fly wherever you wanted. The base boost gloves were also added. If you fired these items while in the air, your character would get sent backwards. These were great for moving around the map. And Epic was really experimenting because they also added the Storm Beast Pom-Poms, a transformation item that would turn you into a wolf and you could run and jump faster with no stamina drain. It had a secondary slam attack that allowed players to jump high into the air and land in a new location. We also got the Surf Cube, which gave you similar mechanics to the Mistform, and you could deploy this and surf anywhere in the air. It had 150 durability, but only 50 could be used at a time. Chapter 6 Season 4 gave us Roly Polies, a new vehicle that allowed players to jump inside and roll around the map at a high rate of speed. We also got the Super Launch Pad. It works like a regular launch pad, but it sends you even higher.
Yeah, it does.
It comes in a stack size of 2, and it was an actual item that you had to throw down instead of a trap. Chapter 6 also gave us the Simpsons season, adding the Krusty's Mr. Blasty, a hard-hitting pistol which had an exotic version that would attach a balloon on the first shot of a fresh reload. You could shoot it down at your feet to gain the balloon effect, or shoot it at enemies, sending them up in the air and making them an easy kill. Players discovered they could also attach the balloon to vehicles and have some insane movement around the map. And finally, in Chapter 7 Season 1, Epic added Storm Surfing, a new mobility mechanic to start off each match. Instead of the normal battle bus, matches have a chance of starting out in the ocean, where players are limited to where they can land and get launched up in the air and have to glide in. We also got the Wingsuit, a form of a jetpack that launches you up into the air and allows you to soar and glide before reaching the ground. Epic also added drivable reboot vans, and while reboot vans have been stationary ever since they were added back in Season 8, they can now be driven directly to down players, and revives can happen anywhere on the map. There was also the Ferris wheel at Wonkyland, a permanent structure that lets players attach to it and launches them up into the air for a free glider redeploy. And of course, the hot air balloons around the map. There are 4 of them that float across on a fixed path going from station to station. Early in the season, players discovered that if you drove a vehicle on top of them, you would get sent into outer space. And now we're in Chapter 7 Season 2, and Epic has granted us a few new mobility items. First, we have the Sky Zip, which allows players to shoot a zip line and attach a balloon to it. This is a very unique mobility device. However, it's not as strong because it's very...
But the past 2 seasons that's happened is low-key trashed. If you like it, I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend, but to me, I don't like it personally. It's very different. You know, everybody's on reload. I'm a reload player myself, so I haven't really played Battle Royale seriously since, like, I don't even know how long. Probably since the Simpsons one.
Very easy to get shot while using the zip line, and it has quite a bit of a wind-up time. But for pure mobility, it's actually pretty decent because you do get to glider redeploy, and you can chain these zip lines together, allowing you to get really high up in the air. But if you use this during combat, you're most likely fried. Next, we have the overdrive grenades. These are a nerfed / balanced version of the shockwave grenades. It sends you further than an impulse, but not as far as a shockwave, so somewhere in between, and it gives you the slap effect for a short duration, as well as like a weird low gravity jump effect. Epic also added 0-point shards back in the game, and they're at 3 fixed locations. There's a low gravity zone around the 0-point shards, and of course, if you enter any of the shards, you'll be rifted up into the sky. We also just unlocked the power gloves, which work similar to the Nitro Fist. You can dash forward and uppercut into the air, and they also are used as an offensive weapon that can deal damage to other players. And finally, we have the Foundation's Rift Rifle, a rifle that shoots out rifts, and you can use it on yourself or enemy players. Now, the season just started, so we might get some more mobility before it ends, but so far we have some pretty unique new mobility coming into Chapter 7 Season 2. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the full evolution of mobility in Fortnite Battle Royale so far. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what your favorite mobility has been in Fortnite. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.
Alright, that was Cypher PK, bro. Dang, Cypher PK is really good at explaining things. I do like his videos, how he shows. It's not just him showing his face like how I do, but hey, if you love my face, it's all good. But thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like the video. Let's try to get to like 5 likes this video if we could. And comment down below what your favorite season of Fortnite was and why you enjoyed it so much. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.